You are a galactic royalty, not metaphorical, not everybody's special royalty. I mean, there is a throne somewhere with your name carved into it in a language you don't consciously remember. And it has been sitting empty this entire time. You've been down here pretending to be normal. And they have been watching you. Yeah, not in a creepy way. In the way a family watched the one member who went out into the world alone to do something nobody else was brave enough to do. They have been watching you struggle, watching you doubt yourself, watching you shrink yourself down to fit into rooms that were never built for something like you. And right now, in this exact moment, in this exact second, they are choosing you. Again, still, always. So who you are? That's the question underneath every equation you've ever asked yourself at 2 a.m. And I'm going to tell you, but I need you to actually sit with this instead of scrolling past it, because this is you we are talking about. You are the chosen one. And by the end of this, you are going to feel it in your chest, not just hear it in your ears. I want to think back to being a little kid for a second. Not the version of the memory you tell people at parties. The real one. The quiet one. Maybe you were lying in your bag or on the carpet, staring at the ceiling, and out of absolutely nowhere, this thought showed up that you never told anyone about. This thought like, why do I have this body? Why arms? Why legs? Why do I have to be inside this thing, walking around, eating, sleeping, doing all of this stuff that everyone else seems to just accept without question? Maybe you asked your parents something like that once and they laughed, or got a little uncomfortable and changed the subject. And you learned pretty quick to stop asking. But the question didn't go away. It just went underground. And if that's familiar to you right now, if some part of you has always quietly suspected that being human is kind of a strange costume you're wearing rather than something you actually are, I need you to hear me. This is not a glitch in you. This is a memory trying to surface. This is the first sign that you are not from around here. And whatever here even means. Here's the thing nobody tells you. You didn't have to come here. This wasn't a punishment. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't some random draw out of a cosmic hat. Wherever you are from, and I don't fully know how to describe it because it's outside the categories we have language for, outside the little boxes of light and dark, good and bad, and you had a seed, a real one, a seed of actual importance, actual weight, actual power. And you looked at this whole situation, this planet, this human experiment, and you volunteered. You raised your hand, you said, I'll go, I'll forget everything on purpose, I will put on the meat stuff, I'll deal with hunger and heartbreak and bills and loneliness and grief, and I'll do it without a map. because there is something down there worth doing that can only be done by forgetting who I really am in the first place. And that's exactly what happened to you. There is a veil that drops the second you arrive here, a kind of forgetting. And it's not a flaw in the design, it's the whole point. If you remembered your real power the instant you showed up, none of this would mean anything. You wouldn't actually learn to choose love when it's hard. You wouldn't actually learn to hold your own light in a room that's trying to dim you. So the forgetting had to happen. But forgetting isn't the same as losing. It's more like a key that got buried somewhere inside you rather than handed to you outright. Because the finding of it is the whole assignment. So let's talk about this room you are living in right now. Picture for a moment an enormous room. Not a normal room, and a room so big you cannot see the walls from the middle of it. This room is potential. This room is every possibility that has ever existed for your life. Sitting there, wide open, waiting. And here's the strange part. You cannot actually feel this room. It's not feelable. It's infinitive by design. But almost nobody tells you that. So you spend years, maybe your whole life so far, trying to cram it full of stuff. Achievements, relationships, approval, money, likes, followers, whatever the currency of the day happens to be. Because some part of you is terrified of the emptiness, terrified of the silence, terrified of what it might mean about you if the room stays open. I want to be really clear. None of those things are bad. Money isn't bad. Success isn't bad. Wanting nice things isn't bad. The trap isn't the stuff. The trap is using the stuff to avoid feeling the size of what you actually are. Because the size of what you actually are is uncomfortable. It's too big and too small at the same time. And the paradox alone can make your stomach drop if you sit with it for a moment, for more than a few seconds. And there is a reason that room feels the way it does. Somewhere down a hallway, you haven't fully walked yet. There is another room, a throne room, your throne room. And here is where it gets strange, because the empty room I just described, the one you keep trying to feel, that's not neutral. That room sits between you and the throne room on purpose. It's a kind of decoy. Think of the way old tombs used to be built with a false chamber right before the real burial room. So anyone trying to get to the treasure would waste all the time and energy in the wrong space, thinking they'd already found what they came for. That's what this life can feel like sometimes. You keep finding rooms that almost feel like the answer. The job, the relationship, the milestone, and each one glitters just enough to convince you that this is it. This is finally home. And then it's not. And you're standing there confused about why you still feel hollow after getting the thing you thought you wanted. I need you to really let that land for a second, because I think that's exactly where a lot of you are right now. You did the thing, you got the job, the person, the apartment, the body, the whatever, and you are still standing in a room that echoes. Here is what I am feeling as I say this. That echo isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. That echo is your own throne room, calling to you from further down the hall, reminding you that you built this decoy room yourself on purpose as part of the deal, so that you'd have to actually search for the real thing instead of being handed it. Nothing worth having down here was ever going to be handed to you. That was never the arrangement. Now let's talk about being watched, because I know that phrase either comforts you or settles you, and honestly, both reactions are correct. There is an enormous amount of attention on you right now. Picture something like this. You are on a massive stage, except you cannot see the audience because the stage lights are pointed directly at you, so all you can see is your own hands, your own next step, your own life immediately in front of your face. But out past that light, there is a crowd, family that came before you, guides, beings, energies, whatever word feels less weird to you, who are rooting for you the way people root for someone running the last mile of a marathon they've already run themselves. They know exactly how hard this is. They know exactly how much it costs to keep going when nobody around you understands what you're carrying. And they are not judging your stumbles. They are not tolling your mistakes. They are simply watching the way you'd watch someone you love do something brave with your whole heart in your throat. And I think this is the part that's going to hit you hardest. So brace yourself for a second. You have been given two different sets of eyes to see with, and you are only using one. There is the eye that sees this life exactly the way it looks. The bills, the traffic, the small talk, the disappointment, the ceiling you used to stare at as a kid. That eye is necessary. You need it to function down here. But there is a second eye, and it's been mostly closed this whole time, and that eye sees the other layer, the layer underneath, the reason for the traffic, the reason for the heartbreak, the pattern threaded through every single hard thing you've survived. You were never meant to use only one eye. You were meant to use both at the same time, to let the ordinary and the sacred sit right next to each other without one canceling out of the other. That's the whole trick of being fully awake while still being fully human. Most people go their entire lives only ever opening one eye. You are being asked to open both. Let's go even deeper, because I don't want to give you a nice, comforting idea and leave it there. I want you to actually feel where this touches your real life. Think about the last time you had something incredible to say in a room, and You swallowed it instead. Maybe it was a joke that would have landed perfectly. Maybe it was an idea. Idea in a meeting. Maybe it was a feeling you wanted to say out loud to someone you love. Yeah. And you felt it rise up in your chest, fully formed, ready. And then you shrank it down to something smaller and safer instead, because some old, tired part of you decided it was easier to be liked than to be fully seen. You know exactly the moment I'm describing. You can probably feel it in your body right now, just listening to this. That moment where you made yourself smaller so the room would stay comfortable. And here's the truth underneath that truth. Every single time you do that, you're not protecting yourself. You are guarding the door to your own throne room from the inside, without ever realizing you are the one holding the key. Because that's the cost, the real cost of forgetting who you are. It's not one dramatic moment. It's 1,000 small moments of choosing the same safe smile instead of the real thing you wanted to say. Yeah, and it's watching your own light dim down, one polite compromise at a time, until you don't even remember what your full volume sounds like. And you walk around fine, you function, nobody around you would say anything is wrong. But at night or on quiet mornings, there is this ache you cannot quite name. This sense that you are living a life that's technically yours but doesn't quite fit, like a costume tailored for someone slightly different from you. Here's the refrain, and I need you to actually receive this instead of just nodding along. That ache is not proof that you are broken. That ache is proof that the throne room is real and it's calling to you. And the calling only feels like pain because you haven't let yourself walk toward it yet. Pain and homesickness, I want to say yes, homesickness, feel almost identical from the inside. What you have been calling anxiety, what you've been calling restlessness, what you've been calling I don't know what's wrong with me lately. A lot of that is actually just your soul remembering something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You're not falling apart. You're waking up. And waking up is loud and uncomfortable for sure, yeah, and inconvenient. And nobody warns you that it feels most exactly like a small breakdown before it feels like anything else. There is another piece to this, I have to say, because it changes everything once you really hear it. Coming down here, becoming human, wasn't only about you finding your own way back. Part of the deal was that you'd help level the playing field for everyone else too. You didn't come here to sit above it all, untouched, waiting to be rescued by your own memory. You came here to actually feel what it's like to be small, scared, broken, heartbroken, misunderstood, so that when you finally do remember who you are, that memory carried real weight instead of being some hollow idea you read about once. You had to know the floor before you could reclaim the throne. Because a throne built on a top of no real experience isn't worth sitting on. You are meant to hold both the truth of your smallness down here and the truth of your enormity everywhere else at the exact same time. And that tension you feel constantly, that push and pull, that's not confusion, that's literally the job. And here is something that should give you chills if you let it in. Part of why you are here is to help wake other people up too. Not by preaching at them, no, not by having all the answers, just by being the kind of presence that reminds people without saying a word that there is more going on than what we can see. You have probably had moments where someone told you that just being around you helped them, calmed them, made them feel like things were going to be okay, and you brushed it off because you don't feel calm yourself. You didn't feel like you had it together. But that's exactly the point. You don't have to have it together to carry that kind of light. You just have to stop hiding it behind the smaller version of you, of yourself. Now, about the accumulating, the working, the building, the striving you've been doing your whole life, sometimes without even knowing why you push yourself so hard. That's not random either. Think of it less like collecting stuff and more like collecting proof. Every skill you've built, every hard conversation you've survived, every time you picked yourself back up after something, knocked you flat, that currency of a completely different kind. Not the kind you spend, the kind you become. And it adds up whether you notice or not. You are, right now, wealthier in that sense that you have any idea. And none of it shows up on a bank statement. There is one more layer underneath all of this, and it might be the most important one, so slow down for a second here. The key to all of it, the throne room, the remembering, the healing, all of it, is not more hustle. It isn't one more course, one more system, one more 5-step plan to fix yourself. The key is stillness, actual stillness, the kind that used to terrify you as a kid when you were left alone with nothing to do. That void-like feeling that made your skin crawl a little, that sense of nothingness that felt like it could swallow you whole. That feeling you've spent your whole life, your entire life, running from with noise, with busyness, with your phone, with always having somewhere to be. That exact feeling is the door, not something on the other side of the door itself. When you can finally sit in that stillness without flinching, without needing to fill it with anything, that's when the room stops being empty and starts being spacious. That's the difference. Empty is scary, yeah. Spacious is where you actually live once you remember who you are. Let's bring this all the way back around now, because I promise you an answer at the beginning, and you deserve everything, and you deserve to actually get it. Remember the room you keep trying to fill with things that never quite satisfy you. I'll stop here. So that room was never meant to be filled. It was meant to be walked through on your way to the throne room that's been waiting for you the whole time. Remember the two eyes you've only been using one of. The second eye is opening right now, just from you sitting here and actually letting this in instead of scrolling past it like everything else today. And remember, at the very beginning when I said they have been watching you and choosing you, right now, in this exact moment, that's not a future event. That's not something wanting or waiting for you to earn it someday. That choosing has been happening this entire time, in the background of every hard year you've survived, every version of yourself you've had to grieve and let go of, every quiet Sunday morning where you felt like that flicker of something more and then watched it fade before lunch. You were never being abandoned in those moments. You were being witnessed. There is a difference, and once you feel it, maybe say it, maybe out loud. You cannot unfeel it. So who are you? You already somewhere underneath the noise. You are the one who signed up for the hard version of this. You are the one who agreed to forget on purpose so the remembering would actually mean something. You are the one who's been carrying a throne room inside your chest the entire time. You thought you were just an ordinary person getting through an ordinary week. You are galactic royalty, wearing a very convincing disguise. And that disguise was never meant to be permanent. It was only ever meant to last exactly as long as it takes for you to hear something like this and feel, most importantly, feel that quiet click of recognition in your body, that little jolt that says, that's me, oh, that's me, they're talking about me. You don't have to have this all figured out today. You don't need a 5-step plan. You don't need to quit your job or announce anything to anyone or change your whole life by tomorrow morning. All that's being asked of you right now is smaller and honestly harder than any of that. Stop shrinking. Just stop shrinking yourself. The next time you feel that thing rise up in your chest, the real thing you want to say, the real want you're used to swallowing, the real light you are used to dimming down to make other people comfortable. Let it stay its full size for 1 extra second before you decide what to do with it. That 1 extra second in the door cracking open, that's the whole beginning of waking up, walking back down that hallway toward the room that's had your name on it this entire time. Because here's the truth, this whole thing has been circling. You didn't have to come here. There was no punishment waiting for you if you'd said no. You chose this on purpose a long time before you had a body to forget it in. And you cannot walk off the stage in the middle of the song now. Even on the days It feels unbearably heavy, even on the days the room feels unbearably empty. You are already here. You already chose. So let this be the moment you stop asking to be picked and start remembering that you already here, that you already were a long time ago by something so much bigger than the small, tired version of your life that's been asking permission to want more. You are the chosen one. Not someday, not once you fix yourself. Right now, exactly as you are. Mid-mass, mid-doubt, mid-ordinary Tuesday. They have been watching. They have been rooting for you. And they are choosing you again in this very moment, the same way they always have. Go be anonymous somewhere quiet today. Nobody has to see it for it to be true. You will know. That's enough. That's always been enough.